Oh yeah. It's an ASICS box. What's inside? I may have 29 million pairs of shoes, but I never get bored of this unboxing moment. I can't wait. Ta-da! Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's your favourite midsole maniac, Running Man Sam. Today we are going to be looking at the ASICS MetaSpeed Sky. First off guys, if you are new to the channel today, you have found your brand new favourite person to watch for shoe reviews. As you can see by all the shoes I've got here, actually it looks like I need another shoe rack soon because I'm having to double stack. But you will see that I have got an abundance of running shoes because I am an absolute shoeaholic when it comes to buying these running shoes. I just can't stop myself. I see them come out and I just can't resist the urge to go for them, especially when they look as amazing as this. Why do they keep making shoes look so cool? So yeah, please, if you're joining us today, please hit that like and please subscribe as well. I promise you, you will not regret it. And we're going to go over my first run of this and I'm going to let you guys know what I think of this beautiful looking shoe. I took this for its first run yesterday. I actually did a 15-mile run on this. I did sort of 2 videos in one as I was running on this because that 15-mile run was my longest run since coming back from injury. I'll put a little link up here to my 5k time trial. I want to talk a little bit more about my injury. I will put a little bit of footage in here from my first run in it. Wow, these actually do look awesome. Now I must say, I am very intrigued to see what I make of this shoe. I've only ever run in 2 pairs of ASICS shoes, and that was quite a few years ago when I didn't even run properly. And I always thought that recently ASICS were quite far behind all the other sort of racing shoes in the game. It looks here like they are finally catching up. I am really interested to see what I think of this shoe. I'll be going for a 15-mile run in these today. Not necessarily sure that's the best way to try out a new shoe. But you know what I'm like, I am so impatient, I need to try it. So we're gonna put this red beast through its paces today on my longest run back since injury. Taking this beautiful little thing out with the GoPro. Cannot wait. What do you make of it? What do you think do you think it looks cool? Why do they always knot these laces and you can never get them on? Ah, just undo! Are you serious with these laces? First sort of impressions is that it feels sort of cheaper on my foot than the likes of the Next Percent 2 and certainly the Adios Pro. The upper doesn't feel as sort of, it just feels cheaper. We want to know what it feels like. We want to know how it performs and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean they fit. I'm looking forward to seeing what they feel like. The foam feels quite squidgy. First thing that I'm noticing is these are actually quite a bit firmer than I thought they would be. Not necessarily in a bad way. As you know from the Adios Pro, I do like a racing shoe to be quite firm, but it doesn't feel quite as sort of spring loaded as the Adios Pro or the next percent too. But I've obviously got 15 miles today to test that. We are now 5k into the 15 miles and this first run in the ASICS MetaSpeed Sky. It's still quite firm, not in a bad way, just not really loosening up much yet. I definitely think that this shoe really does want you to go fast in it, kind of like the Adios Pro. It doesn't necessarily love it when you go slow. I'm not necessarily feeling like it's really working with me, not necessarily against me, just not really with me. It's a racing shoe. We're not going slow, 7:30, 8-minute mile pace. It wants to get me on my toes. I can definitely see how this is a sort of stride based shoe. I don't feel like it necessarily wants my cadence to come up. I do feel like a good propulsion there from the plate and the firmer foam. Okay, so we are now 5 miles in to our 15-mile run. The shoes are coming alive a little bit more now. I think I'm sort of finding how to run in them, change a bit more to a forefoot strike, and it's working a lot better for me. Just with every shoe, with the different drops and the stack heights and stuff, you end up having to sort of just find how that shoe wants you to run. So just quickly, at a faster pace, the shoes did feel good. I'm definitely going to say they do feel like they are for people that have bigger strides rather than cadence runners. I do sort of buy into that ASICS are saying. I do have big strides rather than cadence. I find it quite hard as a bigger, heavier guy to get a high cadence, so opening up my stride works better. I do feel like these help with that, and they did feel good at fast pace. Pick up the speed nicely, they felt nice and responsive. They felt comfortable. I've got absolutely no signs of hot spots or blisters. The breathability is really good. I will say that the lockdown is really good in this shoe. Okay, so overall impressions of the shoe are good. I do enjoy this shoe. It does feel really light. It is quite responsive, but I still don't think it's quite as responsive as the Adios Pro or the Vaporfly 2. Quite a firm shoe, but in a nice way, in a stable, responsive but still protective kind of firm. Good lockdown in it, no heel slippage, pretty good fit. So I'll put together more of my thoughts on this shoe back in the bedroom where the magic with the shoes happens. We'll go into the same sort of details we always go into. This just gives you a first-hand 15-mile run experience on how the ASICS MetaSpeed Sky performs. This is one of 3 new sort of racing shoes that ASICS have brought out. We have the MetaSpeed Sky, this is designed for stride runners. Talk a little bit more about that later. And also they've got the MetaSpeed Edge, which is more for cadence runners. And we've also just got the Magic Speed. I know these names, my girlfriend said to me, Magic Speed, that sounds like it's been named by a 6-year-old. Well, she's right, they are funky names. But they're cool names, aren't they? We love a bit of Magic Speed and Meta Speed and all these cool names. So what we're going to look at today is this shoe. It's mainly going to be just, as usual with Running Man Sam, we're just going to look at the shoe itself. We're going to look at the upper, the lockdown, the heel, the outsole, the midsole, all those sorts of lovely things, the stats, just so that you guys know what do we make of the MetaSpeed Sky and whether or not it's worth spending your hard-earned cash on. So I had to go size 11.5 in this. I'm normally sort of an 11 or 11.5. The 11 was sold out, and because of my just absolute addiction to running shoes, I just thought, oh, 11.5 will fit all of that. So I did, and it was fine. I did have plenty of room in the toe box. I think size 11 would be probably better for me, but I will say that this does fit true to size. It did feel quite roomy, and 11 would have maybe been a little bit snug, but it's a racing shoe, so that I don't think would have been too snug. So we are going to start with some of the stats. So this has got a 5mm drop, which means obviously 5mm difference from the toe to the heel. And it has got 33mm of stack in the heel and 28mm of stack in the forefoot. Well, this is a size 11.5, and it weighs, we've got that funny weighing thing going on where I can't remember if my left or my right, but one weighs 240 grams, one weighs 245 grams. Now I thought this was a little bit weird, but having spoken to a couple of other people in here, it seems that you do often get 5 or even 9 grams difference in a shoe. So that's a bit weird. It's quite a light shoe. It's not quite as light as the Next Percent 2, but a little bit lighter than the Adios Pro. We are not going to talk about these two shoes too much today because I am going to be bringing a comparison. The stats out the way, we're going to talk a little bit more about this beautiful shoe. Now, the first thing that I noticed when I unboxed it is, even though it does look awesome, the materials do look and feel a little bit cheaper looking than some of the sort of other super shoes out there. They don't feel quite as plush. It still looks cool, and it didn't affect me at all on that 15-mile run. We are going to talk quickly about value. So this shoe here is £225. Now, because this is just my first run, an initial review, I'm not going to sort of score it. We'll leave that to sort of some of the comparisons and maybe a full review. It's just going to be my initial thoughts. But at £225, I do think that this is overpriced, especially when the Adios Pro is 170 and the Next Percent 2 is now 209. In terms of the upper, so I'm not, you know what it's like with me. I'm not going to bore you to death with what the names of things are, because it doesn't really tell you what it does it? So the upper for me, it is a really nice fit. It did give me really good lockdown today, or yesterday when I was going out for my 15-mile run, and there was quite good heel support around here. It's not too made up, but it's also not too pliable. The tongue has got very little pad into it, but that seemed to work well for me, and the laces stayed tied nicely. So yeah, true to size definitely for me on this. In terms of how this shoe feels to run in and talking about that midsole, I thought it was quite firm actually. When I took this for my 15-mile run, I definitely noticed that it felt firmer than I was maybe expecting it to feel. Not firm as in like that ground contact firm, just firm as in like the plate is very, as you can see here, look, there's not much give at all with this plate. I forgot to mention, obviously this has a full length carbon fibre plate from heel to toe. So it's very stiff, very rigid, kind of reminds me of the Adios Pro, and it has got plenty of cushion there, so firm doesn't necessarily mean not protective, does it? It just means that it doesn't necessarily feel all soft and mushy, which actually I do quite like in a racing shoe. I don't like it to feel too soft, where I'm a sort of big old lump. I sometimes find if it's really soft, I find it really unstable and I end up sort of sinking into it a bit too much. The other thing that I did notice about this shoe, which I did really like, was how stable it was. I did find that this shoe on the 15 miles felt a lot more stable than I was perhaps anticipating it to feel. So I think if stability in a running shoe is something that does bother you, I think this is going to be a really good option. And I just didn't at any point feel like I was sort of going to crumble in on myself or break my ankle, which I sometimes do feel with other super shoes. Onto the outsole. Now we've got a lot of grip here on this outsole, and after 15 miles yesterday we did a little bit of off-road, and I'm not seeing any wear on the exposed foam at all. So I think we're going to have quite a durable foam here with the exposed foam. In terms of the grip, now it wasn't raining or anything like that, but I could feel that it was like a really tacky shoe, like it was just really grippy. And obviously these do work a lot better when you pick up the pace. They are designed obviously to want to get you on your toes, sort of bounding along and sort of propelling you forward. So they don't want you to go slow. See, when I did pick up the pace, as you would expect, this is when this shoe came alive. Talking about the strides, as I said, this is sort of designed for more stride runners. ASICS have sort of come up with the idea that there's two types of runners. Those that, as they get faster, their cadence pretty much stays the same, but their stride length increases dramatically. And the cadence runner, which is for the MetaSpeed Edge, which is due to drop soon, is more for a cadence type runner, which is where your stride length obviously will increase a little bit, but your cadence goes up a little bit more. They agree with that. There's a few reviews saying that they don't agree with that. I'm going to have to disagree. For me, I find that because I'm quite a big guy, 92 kilograms, 6'2", I can't seem to get my cadence a lot higher, and it works better for me when I increase my stride length using the power that I've got in my legs to propel me forward. So I agree with ASICS saying that there's two types of runners, the stride runner, and I definitely think that I am much more of a stride runner. And I did find that when I was running this and picking up the pace, it wasn't necessarily helping me get that cadence up, but I did feel like it was really sort of propulsive and did give me a very good energy return, so I could sort of get that big stride length when I was opening up my stride and wanting to go faster. I definitely felt that's where it was working with me. It took me a little while at the start of the run to kind of feel where this shoe wanted me to run. It definitely wants to get you up on your toes. For me, I found it worked better when I was forefoot striking, and obviously trying to just go for it is when it really felt like it came into its own. So yeah, that is my sort of first impressions after a 15-mile run of this shoe. I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. I had no blisters. I had nothing like that afterwards. My foot did feel really good afterwards, especially considering the fact this was my longest run back since injury. Let me know in the comments, is this a shoe that you're interested in getting? Is it something you would pick over the other two shoes here? I do think that given a little bit more testing in this shoe, doing a little bit more sort of tempo runs and maybe some 5k or 10k races in this shoe just to really see how it performs for me at my race pace for longer distance, is something that I'm excited about. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed my initial thoughts on this ASICS MetaSpeed Sky. As always, I have been Running Man Sam. This has been a super duper running shoe, and I will see you guys in a bit.